Hi, it's all legal audience. I am here today with a fellow classmate from our alma mater, Southern University Law Center. He is now practicing in the Dallas, Texas area, civil rights attorney. You also do personal injury, Daryl?
I do.
All right. Well, we have with us this evening Mr. Daryl K. Washington. Daryl, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Janine. It's a pleasure to connect with you on your legal show. And, you know, it's been so long since we've had the opportunity to talk, but I just knew when we were in law school together, I always knew that your future was going to be bright. So just to have the opportunity to come on your show and just talk about some of the things that we're currently dealing with, it's great.
I appreciate it. And I feel the same way about you. Like I said, I'm reading about you in, news articles, TV interviews. So it's just my honor to be able to talk to you today. So I know you've been busy. You are heavily involved with the National Bar Association. I know that you are working on a few civil rights cases that are making, headline news these days. So I want to just delve right into that. I want to talk about the state of civil rights practice in 2020.
It's a good question. I know we just did a interview with NBC News, and one of the things that we touched upon was the fact that it seems like these cases are becoming more and more. And the one story I gave a couple of years ago when 15-year-old Jordan Edwards was killed by a Bark Springs police officer. That was a case where the police officer actually got convicted of murder and sentenced to prison. So
right.
As you know, that's not something that we see very often. So during the interview with the news outlets, one of the things I said was, I think this was the beginning to the end. Because police officers now had the opportunity to see another officer get convicted of murder. So it was our hope that, officers weren't going to be so quick to pull that trigger.
Right.
Then, here comes the Botham Jean case. I just thought with Jordan, it was over and we lose Botham. Such a fine young man. Botham had so much to offer this world.
Right.
The sky were the limits for this guy. And he was at home eating ice cream, watching a football game when Amber Geiger walked into his apartment and took his life. That case there, I think, shocked the country because now they were no longer able to have that narrative of somebody that was a criminal or somebody that was violating the law. This guy was in his house and he was killed.
Right.
And we were able to get a murder conviction against that officer. So now Dallas County had not gotten a murder conviction against a police officer while he committed a crime while on duty in over 40 years.
Wow.
So we thought, we really had made some headway. And then 1 month after Amber Geiger was convicted of murdering Botham Jean, we get that Tatiana Jefferson case in Fort Worth.
Right.
So it's like, you say to yourself, will this ever stop? We have George Floyd in Minnesota. You have Rashard Brooks that happened shortly after.
Right.
Now I'm dealing with Mr. Barnett, a 25-year-old kid that was killed in the Iberia Parish jail. So you wonder, when will this ever stop? And the only way Janine and I have been able to respond to this is, I think the problem starts from the top. And I think we won't see any changes until after November when we get rid of that current president we have.
Right. And this is what I have been saying for the past few months. And like you said, I, along with the rest of the country, have, watched these senseless murders take place at the hands of police officers. As well as, just white individuals. Let's just keep it real.
Right.
But specifically the police officers, I keep saying that until these individuals who are, protected, from liability or start to be held accountable for their actions, nothing is going to change.
Correct.
And like you said, it starts from the top. It starts from the top on down.
Right.
And in the other thing is that you're right, the election is coming up and it's so important to vote. And the other piece of that puzzle are the district attorneys, who are the individuals who actually pursue these cases.
Correct.
So until you start paying attention or actually go out and cast your ballot for the district attorney and do your research into that individual, I don't see how anything is going to change. And that's just my opinion as a lawyer, from a legal perspective.
Right. I think it's more than just an opinion that you're giving, Janine. I think it's factual. There's so much that's taking place, and people don't take the time to educate themselves on the system. Not only is voting for the district attorney important, but your city council members. There are so many people who have the opportunity to bring about change, and they don't.
Right.
I often say that a lot of these people, when they're running for office, they make all these promises to their constituents, and somehow once they get elected, they get amnesia.
Right.
And I think we really, truly need to hold our public officials accountable. We take right now, and I was telling people how dangerous Donald Trump truly is. You have to look at these judicial appointments that he's making.
Right.
And when we get these cases, the Section 1983 cases, a violation of an individual's civil rights, these cases are going to federal court. They're going to the very place that Donald Trump is making. He's making all these appointments.
Right.
Now, these individuals, in most cases, think like Donald Trump. And we all know that Trump worships police officers. They are heroes to him. So in order to make yourself someone that Donald Trump would want to put on the federal bench, or to make yourself someone that he would potentially want to nominate to the Supreme Court, he has to really see that you're someone that has his type of mindset. And that's the most dangerous thing that we currently dealing with right now. Right.
So do you think social media and just the fact that, okay, now we can videotape what's going on, do you think that's led to an increase in the public awareness? Seeing firsthand George Floyd get murdered by Derek Chauvin. Do you think that has played a part in the increase in these cases? They've been going back, since, for decades.
Rodney King,
right? So it's just like part of that was on video, but so what is different now? What's different? What has changed from then to now?
That's a great question. And I don't even know how to answer that, because for years we have been telling the community, we have been telling people that we have a serious problem. But unfortunately, I think our communities, to an extent, is as guilty as other people are when we're dealing with these cases, because people don't get excited about these cases unless there's a video showing the actual incident.
Right.
But as I say, for every George Floyd case that was captured on video, there are thousands of mothers and fathers who are begging for people to take their cases, but because they're not videoed, in most cases, attorneys aren't really interested in the case. The media is not interested in the case. So if nobody's talking about the case, it's very difficult to put the pressure on the city the way we need to. But I think with this pandemic, as bad as it is, I think it was almost a blessing in disguise, because we weren't dealing with sports. We should have been, when George Floyd was killed, we should have been in the middle of the National Basketball
play.
Getting ready for the playoffs. People talking about spring football, all the fun things that generally keep us distracted. But there was absolutely nothing to do. There was really no current television. The only thing that we saw current on television was the news. So when we had the George Floyd incident, I think it was an embarrassment to this entire country, because people had the opportunity to witness 8 minutes and 46 seconds of police brutality. And to
Exactly.
really see it in that vacuum, I think it made people understand and realize that we really do have a problem. And the thing about it, the way George Floyd was killed was basically in a manner that people took so much offense to Colin Kaepernick being on his knee. So this officer was on his knee when he took George Floyd's life.
Right.
So it was, you know, it's poetic just to see how this all.
It's kind of like an oxymoron.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yes. And now I turn on ESPN, and I'm seeing highlights from Major League Baseball, and everybody's taking a knee before the game. And I said, you know, if everybody, we have to stop being so reactive. We have to be proactive, because being proactive saves lives.
Right.
And I often think to myself, you know, if we would have done this 3-4 years ago, would Jordan Edwards be alive? Would Botham Jean be alive? Would, you know, Miss Jefferson be alive in Fort Worth? So it's just, we have to be proactive in this, and just to see the younger generation being involved, because they're the ones who are going to make the change.
That's exactly what I've been saying. I mean, I was out there marching, during the George Floyd protest here in Houston, Black Lives Matter protest. I was out there, but the majority of the individuals who are out there, like you said, are the younger generation.
Right.
And they're the ones they're actually going to make a change. They're going to push, for change, to make a difference. I mean, yeah, we're doing our part, but it's the millennials. I mean, and you can see that. And I tell everybody, this ain't the 60s. This is a whole different movement, a whole different mindset, a whole different mentality about what at the African American community is not going to tolerate anymore.
You're absolutely correct. Janine, we, here in Dallas, for the longest with police brutality cases, people thought that perhaps this was a South Dallas issue. A lot of people drive to North Dallas after work, in the nice suburbs, gated communities, and they feel like, look, this is not our problem. So quite frankly, I don't really care. But after the George Floyd case, white kids, black kids, brown kids start asking questions.
Yep.
And they put their parents in some very tough situations, because these young kids say, no, I'm going out here and protest Black Lives Matter. So, as parents, when our kids start asking questions, and when our kids start saying, why do you look at this person because of the color of their skin? It forces parents to have to look at things a totally different way. And I think having people of different races coming together, I think that was the defining moment. That was the one thing that really put strength to this protest. I mean, it was not just about Black people. It was about everybody coming together and uniting. And as you know, during the civil rights movement, although, it was primarily African Americans pushing for changes, we had our allies out there. And we have to have people working together to make changes. It's just no question. We can't do it alone. We need help.
I totally agree. And, I'm hoping that, we get to a point of where we stop talking about this problem, and that there are actually solutions and action is actually taken to bring about the change that we have been talking about for so long. It's just like, I know I'm exhausted. Right. I'm tired of seeing the same thing over and over and over again. Right? You get in some instances you get the officers charged, but they don't get convicted.
Right.
So there's no deterrence. There's nothing to stop this type of conduct amongst police officers. And that's just the bottom line.